everyone. Welcome to Newsroom Weekly Review. I'm Chella Smith, bringing you your Middle East to U.S. entertainment news. I'm here every Friday on YouTube, bringing you the latest in reforms in economics. Let's get right into our news. Shafak News reports the U.S. Consul General in Erbil, Robert Palladino, said last Saturday that the U.S. President Joe Biden believes that the establishment of security in the Middle East is linked to the stability of Iraq and Kurdistan region. Palladino said in a press conference held in Jumaiki oil field in Duhok that the United States is committed to supporting the Kurdish region, adding that the President Biden believes that the establishment of the security in the Middle East is linked to the security of Iraq and the region. He noted that the Americans will remain in the region and Iraq until need for that no longer exists, stressing that the United States will contribute to the region's stability process in terms of security and its development in terms of economics. The U.S. Consul in Erbil continued, "We are working for a major company operating in the energy field to come to the region and to have an active role in the investment process." Shafak also reported on Saturday, Iraqi Prime Minister Barham Saleh described the upcoming parliamentary elections as historic, stressing the electoral and political empowerment of women. The presidency of the Republic said in a statement received by Shafak News Agency at the Peace Palace in Baghdad, a delegation that includes a number of activists and social society organizations across the country, indicating that the elections were discussed and need for wide participation in them, especially women. The statement quoted Saleh as saying during the meeting that the elections that will take place in a few days are an important historical and pivotal event for the country, and it must be a shift towards achieving what is required for Iraq in terms of reforming the situation and establishing a rational government that meets the Iraqis what they deserve from a free and dignified life. Saleh added that the electoral empowerment of women is an importance and an essential point in elections, noting that the number of women voters is about half of the total number of voters, and the women candidates for these elections amount to about 30% of the numbers of candidates, exceeding the quota, which is an important indicator of women's insistence on active participation, stressing that they need to provide them with the opportunity to freely participate in the elections and choose whomever they deem best. He added that the current electoral system enables women to a good presence in the legislative institution through a quota, although it is not commensurate with the expectation and aspirations towards greater participation, pointing out the electoral law is advanced compared to the law of many countries, and we hope that it will develop farther in the session, the next election. The Iraqi president stressed the issue of women in society as necessity and closely linked to development, economy, and social stability, and without empowering women, the economy cannot develop and the development cannot be achieved. He pointed out that targeting women and candidates through squatting is unfortunate, painful, and unacceptable situation, and work must be done to prevent this and ensure that this does not happen again. Shafak News also reported that Iraqi Prime Minister Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Mustafa al-Kazimi, held a meeting on Saturday with the Supreme Electoral Security Committee and the Electoral Commission and issued several directives. Al-Kazimi's office said in a statement received by Shafak News that the letter said during his meeting with members of Election Commission and Supreme Security Committee, "We meet with you today and a week ago on the exceptional tasks assigned to him, representative in early parliamentary elections of Iraq." He added, "All of the Iraq is counting on your assertive assistance on ensuring the integrity of electoral process and maintaining its security," noting that Iraq and its people have suffered a lot because of corruption, spoilers, and fraud in every electoral process, and it is time for them to gain confidence in their state through secured ballot boxes, away from the hands of counterfeiters. He stressed that your mission today is historical, and it can change the fate of the country and lift the injustice that has experienced since the former regime and also after 2003. He pointed out all 18 governments will be elected in one day, and that the matter requires great efforts on your part, especially with regards to the security aspect and securing the electoral process. Al-Kazimi urges the Iraqi people to walk steady towards the polls, praising High al-Sistani's position in inviting citizens to participate in the elections. They said, "I say to all Iraqis, the future of your children is determined by the elections, so noting prevents you from choosing who you think is best." He also said, "We seek the hands of clergy and social activists to urge the elections and not to boycott." So that is the result. Do not come back negative, and those who do not deserve and who are not the finest will face the responsibility. He pointed out these are the first elections since 2003 to be held, and the Prime Minister was not nominated for the election, which means that there is no pressure on the Commission, stressing that I began personally supervising the Supreme Security Committee for the elections. He stressed, "We must establish fair elections that restore confidence in the political system, the electoral process, and rehabilitation."
Next, we're going to take a look at the article from Samir al-Nazari. The new Central Bank of Iraq building released a statement. The central bank in the countries of the world mainly aim to achieve economic stability by achieving stability in the monetary system and the financial system through their programs and strategies that aim to maintain stability in the exchange of their local currency against other foreign currencies and to build significant foreign cash reserves to cover their local currency in circulation. In accordance with the special international standards issued by the International Monetary Funds, banks are also evaluated based on their critical related to facing crisis, challenges, economic, political, and security shocks, natural and epidemic disasters in their countries, controlling stable rates of inflation and interest rates, and applying internationally establish relations and rules for combating monetary laundering and terrorist financing. Therefore, the Central Bank of Iraq issued last week new instructions to banks and exchange companies and mediations in the sales and purchases of licensed foreign currencies, and externally, which leads to controlling and maintaining the stability of the exchange rates in compliance with requirements of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing law number 39 of 2021. The governor discussed what was mentioned in the instructions with the head of the board of directors and authorized managers in specialized workshops, in which he explained the objectives of issuing the instructions and the procedures required of banks to implement them as of October 17, 2021, with the emphasis of the needs for the banks to practice their real work as established in their law number 94 of the year 234, and the focus on banking finance and the banking products that contribute to transition of banking work from banking to contributing to development. The economic conditions and crisis, the financial deficit, and the decline in the financial position of the public finance, which led to the change in the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar for the purpose of overcoming the above crisis, with the central bank taking many measures and initiatives to stimulate the economy and realizing the exchange rate change, that the rate of the control is controlled exchange and trading markets for about a month at the target rate of 1470 dinars against the US dollar. Therefore, the new instructions regulate the process of selling foreign currencies in the currency window through which it will be implemented to maintain stability of the exchange rate, control the movement of foreign currency logically and internationally, and abide by international standards for compliance rules and combating money laundering and terrorist financing. We do not forget how the dollar devoured the local currencies in neighboring and regional countries, which suffered from a circumstance similar to the Iraqs, such as Iran, Turkey, Lebanon, and Syria, where their local currencies collapsed in a very large proportions, while the Iraqi dinar exchange rate stabilized within the target rate of the central bank, despite the speculations in the market. In order for the economics analyzed to be accurate and not extreme of the reality of the monetary stability in Iraq and the efforts of the expected economy, epidemiological, and the expected shock on the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar, In order not to take the expectations of the media, intimidation, and create a state of fear among the public and the banking sector,
I am certain, and through an insightful economy and analytical view of the state of monetary trading market, and from a natural and transparent point of view, we note that the steps measured and balanced finance initiatives of the central bank and the availability of the foreign cash reserves at the rate and percentage that it significantly is determined to cover the monetary mass in circulation and to cover imports, as the foreign cash reserve is fully secured and Iraq ranks fourth in the Arab world. The central bank will make exceptional efforts in accordance with the monetary policy application and to maintain the stability of the target rate of the exchange rate. Excuse those technical difficulties there. Let's move forward. Shabak News, a government source, said on Monday that the most of the bonds offered by government are bought by banks through their cash reserves with the Central Bank of Iraq, while citizens are satisfied with only 1% of those bonds. From time to time, the central bank issues bonds in favor of the Ministry of Finance for the purpose of financing some public expenditures, as it has recently issued construction bonds in denominations of 500,000 dinars and 1 million dinars. The sources told Shabak News Agency the banks use mandatory cash reserves at the bank, which range between 35 and 40% of its capital over 25 billion dinars, for the purpose of purchasing the bonds offered by the government through the central bank. The sources added 99% of those bonds are bought by banks and 1% is bought by the citizens, noting that buying bonds by banks achieve great profits for them, the high interest offered, and the amount that those banks buy for the bonds are frozen while the bank as a reserve. You will move it by buying these bonds. The sources noted that the government issued bonds from time to time due to lack of financial liquidity to finance public expenditures, noting that the government owes the central bank more than 21 trillion dinars as a result of borrowing funds during the last period to cover salaries and other expenses. Baghdad Mwanzi News reports the financial advisor to Prime Minister Mauser Mohammed Salih determined this past Monday that the extent of possible of relieving pressure on the operation budget and addressing the financial situation in the country, while proposing situations to support the private sector, reduce unemployment, and reduce the value of the dollar against the dinar. The financial advisor to Prime Minister Mauser Mohammed Salih said it is possible to benefit from the recovery in oil prices by moving stalled projects, attracting a workforce, and solving the problems of unemployment, which average 450,000 workforces willing to work, and this results in the entire society. He pointed out the importance of spending additional rentier resources on projects to relieve pressure of the operating budget, noting that the operational budget includes dozens of decisions and laws and bear financial burdens, and need to double the 2021 budget to implement all its requirements. Saleh explained there is poor planning as well as accumulation of unemployment, and treatment cannot take place unless the state sets laws for the private sector, such as Social Security laws, which grants privileges to its workers, including ensuring its retirement rates and transferring an employee from the private sector to government and others. He added, the additional resource of oil cannot be used without directives to manage them, noting that the private sector has the ability and leadership, and money must be dispersed to it within a specific plan and be in the form of soft recoverable loans to preserve wealth. As for the distribution of amounts of consumption, it's just a big loss for the future, he continued. The government today is shackled by thousands of decisions and laws that carry consumer spending burdens par excellence and cannot be applied even if the price of the barrel of oil reaches $160, referring to the reasons for the adoption of legislation without studying the finance burdens and thus costing the state to carry out a review of those legislations, and therefore today, the Ministry of Finance is unable to implement dozens of legislations due to the financial burdens. He indicated that the transfer of problems from one cycle to another has caused a major imbalance, and long-term plans that are governed by law must be developed and adhered to it in order to rebuild the country properly, noting that Iraq in recent years has followed a policy of deportation, and it must be replaced by a policy of communication, meaning that the government is changing within the continued implementation of the draw plan. And an example of this is the electricity sector, which has spent $120 billion. And so far, the country is unable to produce 20,000 megawatts per day. And on the extent of the possible of reducing the value of the dollar against the dinar, the financial advisor said the monetary policy depends on the amount of foreign reserves supporting the Iraqi dinar. That is, the efficiency of reserves and their escalations towards safe lines. He added, there are expectations that the Iraqi dinar will improve within the development of reserves, and this is up to the monetary policy, especially since timing is appropriate and the opportunity is appropriate, providing that there is financial discipline and correct development. And without them, there is no value of any attempts. He pointed out that the 2022 budget will be subject to great pressure, especially since the 2021 budget is built on deficit, stressing that the improvement in oil prices will reduce the deficit in the 2022 budget, but there is an expansion of it is achieved, the spending ceiling will be fixed, meaning that the increase in revenues with the increase is operational spending does not achieve anything. Economy News Baghdad reported the Ministry of Finance revealed also on Tuesday the positive effects of raising the exchange rate on the Iraqi economy. The ministry said in a statement received by Al-Iqtisad News that it has continuously followed the indicators of devaluation of currency against the dollar and over the past 9 months. It was $54 billion in December 2020. This came after implementing reform measures. The change in the exchange rate also helps reduce the demand for foreign currency, which was positively reflected in the decrease in imports and the increase in domestic productions, she added. The indicator confirmed, accordingly to the statement, the improvement of commercial activity in the past 9 months of the current 2021 year, in light of the spread of the coronavirus, as well as stopping the penetration of the Iraqi market and dumping it with cheap goods that curb attempts to upgrade local productions. The ministry indicated that it is working to reinvest the generated revenues with the aim of building a targeted production base outside the oil sector and relying on other sources which will contribute to the decrease in demand for the dollar as a result of compensating good products goods, which made the population of imports to local consumptions declined. He pointed out that it is adopted since the reformation of the current government and development of plans and mechanisms to work on reform Iraq's financial policy, and culminated in adoption of reform papers, the White Papers, which outlines future economic and financial policy steps to advance local productions and reduce imports for the country. This measure also contributed to improving the situation of public budget and reducing imports, orientation towards encouraging local products and providing job opportunities. We've spoken on this recently. Economy News Baghdad reported the Arab electronic payment companies, the Kyrgyzstan International Islamic Bank, signed Tuesday a cooperation agreement to issue electronic cards, comprehensive and advanced electronic payment services. The agreement, signed by the managing director of the Arab Electronic Payment Company, Hadar Al-Abadi, and the managing director of the Kyrgyzstan International Islamic Bank, Dr. Al-Asadi, comes with the aim of achieving integration and performance that advance the reality of comprehensive electronic services to deliver them to the beneficiaries in the shortest way from the citizens and companies. The sources pointed out this comes in harmony with the aspirations and goals of the Central Bank of Iraq by applying the principles of digital transformation in electronic monetary transaction and serving the digital economy, which has become the country's in its early stages. He added that the Arab Company for Electronic Payment has a specialized team that follows up in every update and service witnessed by electronic payment globally and is working on adopting its local to serve the country and it's to always be at the forefront. The sources pointed out that the Arabs for electronic payment has succeeded in classifying it as the best company in providing electronic services in Iraq, as it is working on building an ambitious strategy to spread electronic payment services in Iraq, which the citizens in Iraq greatly. Al-Frat News reported the U.S. State Department issued on Wednesday an important joint statement on early elections. In the text of the joint statement, Al-Frat News received a copy of that many governments, the Foreign Minister of Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, and the UK Foreign and U.S. Secretary of State prepares the Independent High Electoral Commissions of Iraq to hold early elections on October 10th. These snapped elections are an opportunity for Iraqi voters to dramatically decide their futures. We recognize the importance of the moment in Iraq's history. In response to the demand of the Iraqi people, significant resources were mobilized to support free and fair elections. In May of 2020, the UN Security Council strengthened its mandates of the United Nations Assistant Mission for Iraq, UNAMI, to assist in the early election. The resulting UNAMI Electoral Assistance Mission mandates to support the Independent High Electoral Commissions is the largest of its kind in the world, with 5 times the number of UN officials present during the 2018 elections. Baghdad Muanzib reported yesterday that the Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kazimi announced the end of the work of the Iraqi parliament. Al-Kazimi said via Twitter, the House of Representatives today ended its parliamentary term in preparation for the procedure next Sunday, October 10th. He added, our people are throughout the dear homeland. The elections are the national's path to produce a new parliament to protect our homeland and build the state. Al-Kazimi continued addressing the Iraqis, choose who represents you freely and on the basis of Iraqi's national value. Make change within your will. Shafaq News reported the Iraqi Stock Exchange on Thursday the suspension of its activities for a period of 1 day. The market said in a statement received by Shafaq News Agency, based on the decision of the Council of Ministry to declare an official holiday starting next Sunday on the occasion of organizing the parliamentary elections. It will not be organized trading sessions for this day. He added, the activity will practice after the official holiday and starting next Monday, according to its official timing. It is noteworthy that the markets organize 5 trading sessions per week from Sunday to Thursday, and including 103 Iraqi joint stock companies representing the sector of banking, telecommunications, industry, agriculture, insurance, financial investment, tourism, and hotel. A lot going on this week with the upcoming elections. Here in a few days, we'll learn the Prime Minister and the President. Well, that's a wrap for this week's review. You've been watching Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news on reforms and finance. I'm Chella Smith. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my content, give me a thumbs up. I will see you all next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for your next Newsroom updates. Thank you so much. Take care.
Make sure you join us Fridays, 4 p.m. with Newsroom Updates with Chella Smith Entertainment News. And don't forget us on Sundays for What's Cooking in the Kitchen. You can also find us behind the scenes 24/7 on Snapchat.